Hi, this is Lynn Barrett, and today we're going to be talking about the Putney Craft Tour, which is actually taking place this Thanksgiving, and it has for 35 years. We're celebrating the 35th anniversary. Today, with me is Ian Eddy, blacksmith extraordinaire, Bob Birch, glass blower extraordinaire, and Carleen Raper, fabric artist extraordinaire. So the Putney Craft Tour, it's now 35 years. Who can remember actually how it started?
Well, I think that would be me. When I first started blacksmithing in 1975, I guess, David Mischke and Carol Kaiser were running a pottery studio, and they had been potting for a while. And they decided to open their studio to customers that they had had throughout the year, and invited them over to come and see what they had done and enjoy a little snack and something to drink. And they thought that it might be a good idea if I came along also and brought some of my stuff. So that's what started it. And for a couple of years, I sort of tagged along with David and Carol. And then I believe it was in 78 or so, Margot Torrey, who had been running a store in Putney, decided that she thought it would be beneficial if we formed a little organization, because there were a lot of craftspeople in Putney, and that maybe we could get together and do a little event. And I think the first event was probably that summer, where we had a gathering of people, I think on the green in Putney, and showing our stuff. And then the idea was to probably follow the same timing that David and Carol had set up, which was closer to Christmas, and open our respective studios so that people could come and see what we did and where we worked. And rather than just seeing an object in a store, you got to see where it was made and who it was made by. And that seemed to be pretty popular.
So people came. How did you let people know that this was happening, and how many people came in the beginning?
Well, I think those who were organized, which I don't consider myself totally organized, I think David and Carol had a little mailing list of people, and they sent out, and then other people contributed names and addresses. And so it started that way, very sort of small mailing list. And then I think a lot of us drove around and put up little flyers here and there. Is probably the way it started. But over the years, I would say we've gotten a lot more sophisticated on how we put this together. And it's a year-long preparation. We start, actually, I think it's the first week in December after the tour, as we set it up on Thanksgiving weekend, we start organizing for the coming year. So.
Wow. And Bob, when did you get involved?
I got involved around 1979. I remember we used to have these meetings where we would sit and talk about the same thing over and over and over.
I remember that.
And one of the first major discussions we had that went on forever was whether we were going to spend $32 to get posters made.
Oh boy.
So it was...
Some of those discussions still happen, I think.
Oh yeah, so
the numbers are bigger.
We did that forever, but I actually started because I was selling seconds. Glass blowers have a lot of seconds. Other craftspeople don't, but so that's how I kind of came along. But yeah, I've joined it, and it's been incredibly successful. I'm really thrilled to be part of it this long and
That's
to have
great.
it be so successful.
That's terrific. And Carleen, when did you get involved?
I moved to Westminster West in 1984, so I think it must have been 84. It might have been 85. But I was in it for many, many years, and then 2000 to 2006 I was away living somewhere else, but then I've been back on the tour once I came
So
back.
how does one get involved? If you're an artisan or an artist, how do you get involved in the craft tour?
We have a meeting, you know, a few times a year, and we also have a jury that it's a group of people from the tour that if people are interested in, are you talking about, I'm sorry, are you talking about people coming to see or
No,
people
Being
do
on
over?
the
opening
tour.
their studios.
You mean?
Participants.
Participants,
Artists,
artists.
Well, we have a group in the tour that's does the jurying, and they go around and look at the people's work and the actual setup, because people are going to come to your shop. So they really want you to have a professional presentation and also you know, have a really good quality work. So, and we limit it to about 27, 28. We stay in that neighborhood. So.
That's great. And I guess we should talk a little bit about what you're actually doing as a blacksmith. And you've brought some things, and maybe you can just give us a little insight into how you make these fabulous things.
Well, I guess I think all of us probably would agree that the main thing about doing craft work and the sort of, I think the ultimate object is to be, to control your material and control the process that goes into making whatever you make. I think that's really a big part of what we do. I demonstrate all 3 days, and so does Bob. I know, and you do too, Carlene, right? A little bit, anyway?
On a very limited scale.
Okay. But, you know, I fire up the forge and people come in, and what has always fascinated me with ironwork is the plasticity of the metal. And when you can take something that is like this, which is just a 3/8 inch rod, and you wind up turning it into something that's like this, it's the same.
Turn this so that actually this turns into this, which is pretty amazing.
Well,
Yeah. And so how do you do that?
it's that's part of the, as I say, the fascination. And really, what I did a little layout here of the various stages of doing this. And you take the rod and you point it, and then after you pointed it, you move back and you make this skinnier, and then you take that little knob that's left and you spread that out on the anvil with a hammer. And then you take a hammer with a cross peen and you pull the lobes out on the leaf. And then in this particular case, what I do is I bend it up this way, and then it gets pounded into a little depression, a spoon-shaped depression, and then it gets flipped over, and I do a little crease in it and curl the end. And then I take this part, the stem, and then I'll work the stem out into like a little curl like this, and voila!
Very nice.
It's done just
Excellent.
like that.
Very, very nice.
But I demonstrate this because I think it shows the plasticity of the metal and how it can be stretched and worked. And I think that's part of, you know, what's interesting about blacksmithing.
And how did you get into blacksmithing?
Well, in the early 70s, my wife and I, when we were first married, she's British, and we went back to England. And I visited the forge of her grandfather, and he was not with us. And I first saw, I had to look in through these dusty windows of his little shop to see what he was doing, and his widow wouldn't let me go in because it was just too emotional for her to unlock his shop. So that Christmas, I got a book, The Art of Blacksmithing, from my wife. And when I looked in, I remember saying, you know, this would be really cool. And so, anyway, long story. I've been at it for quite a while. And the really neat thing for me is this summer, I went back to England
Oh, great.
and went
Great.
back to the building and saw where the shop was, and I was able to get in. And across the road, he was like a benefactor of this old English church, and he had done a bunch of ironwork. And I was able to go in and look at the
Beautiful.
ironwork, which I had looked at 41 years ago,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, yes, it was very nice, but it was really nice to see
That's
what he had done and how he'd made it. And
Yeah.
it was a wonderful circular thing for me.
That's
And
terrific.
I've been using his anvil for 35 of my 38 years.
That's
And
great.
so it really has brought it, back,
Yeah.
and it's very neat.
That's very neat. And Bob, I know that you do a lot of demonstrating on the tour, and people just come and they just love it. So how did you actually get involved with glass blowing?
I thought I was visiting a friend down at Penland, North Carolina, which is a craft school. And I remember walking through the woods. I remember this so well, walking through the woods one night. And there was this kind of rumble coming out of this building and this glow, and I kind of wandered over, and there was this guy that was blowing glass in this small glass shop. But what he was doing was he was spinning out a large platter, which is, you don't really touch it, but you use centrifugal force, and you get the glass so soft that if you spin it, it'll open up. And this is a similar piece to what he was making.
Let's show this
Then,
again. Yeah. So
It's
that-
a large, it's a bowl that's fluted, and the form is
beautiful.
totally done without touching it. It's done with centrifugal force and gravity by
amazing.
spinning it to open it up and then swinging it to get it to fold with the flutes. So it's a dance with the glass. But I saw that and it just touched my heart, and I could not believe how excited I was. And from that moment on, I just was working toward getting into a glass blowing shop. And I basically am self-taught, and I've slowly but surely kind of developed some techniques that I find fun and exciting to do. And in fact, that's one of the major parts of the tour. Is Ian had mentioned that people get to see the actual processes, but beyond that, they get to see the people and get to interact with them, and you get to see part of the lifestyle and I'd say the love of the lifestyle from the people that are doing it. And I think where that comes from for me and for a lot of people is when you do things that are mass-produced and you get so much of so many things, they lose their value in terms of how you feel about them. And I think we're trying to grab a hold of that appreciation for things that are special. And, it's a lifestyle. And I think when you come into the shops, you can actually see that and, be part of it. And I teach a lot, too, so a lot of people that come to our tours come and ultimately take glass blowing lessons. And, so it's there's a lot to it. There's a lot more than just kind of coming and watching. You can
That's great.
actually be involved.
Yeah. Carlene, how about you? How did you get involved in fabric?
Pure chance. I was fired from 3 different jobs, and so I employed myself, and I haven't fired me yet, I started making quilts with commercial fabric, but about 25 years ago, not quite, I took a class in dyeing, and the class itself was not at all inspiring, but then a friend started dyeing and inviting me over, and it just was so much fun. Ian was talking about controlling your materials and being able to. Well, I'm very, very much concerned with not controlling my materials. I mean, at some point I do, but when I'm dyeing, I'm in no way trying to make this or that. I'm just sort of slinging this stuff around in various different ways. I get different ideas about how to do that, and it's just really fun. It's magic. And then I get masses of cloth. I probably have hundreds of yards of cloth that I've dyed. And I take things that interest me and that would like to be together, and
you make beautiful scarves.
cut them up and
pillows.
yeah. And I've also
all kinds of things. And now you're doing something very interesting.
yeah. I've in the last couple of years I've taken my work, images of my work, and sent the images to a company in Boulder, Colorado, Liberty Puzzles, and they do laser cut wooden puzzles. So
Let's hold this up.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They can see that.
So this is the latest one, which I'm very excited about. It makes the pieces are tiny and really gorgeous. They're, I don't know. Let's see if you can see that.
Yeah. There you go.
Can you?
Can you see that, Bob?
And you were showing how one of the
And then
pieces makes a
some,
butterfly.
yeah, like this butterfly is made up of, I don't know, 12 pieces or something.
Here, put it on here a minute. Or they can see it, I guess.
Whoa, just fell apart.
How many pieces?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A lot more pieces than you started with.
many more.
So that's, what made you think about that? That's
Well,
kinda
I
neat.
just love jigsaw puzzles, and I've always thought that my work would do well as a jigsaw puzzle, that I would like to do that. And I started by thinking about just regular, cardboard jigsaw puzzles, and then at some point I thought, oh, wait a minute, wooden jigsaw puzzles, that's the thing. And I did some research on the web and found a couple companies that were doing these laser cut wooden jigsaw puzzles at a reasonable price. They're a little costly, but nothing like a hand cut out jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
So and their work is just beautiful.
And people are responding.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. And actually, you're really, you're artists and artisans, but you also, you're small business people. So I think a lot of us who live here in Southern Vermont think, oh, you probably just sell your work here or you go to shows, but I think it's much bigger than that. And I know that you're selling internationally and you're doing some very interesting things as well. Bob, let's talk about that a minute and then we'll talk to Ian.
Yeah, we have probably about 100 galleries, mainly in the U.S., that we sell to. Sell to a lot of museum shops, a lot of different things like that. We have this summer been working with Chase Bank to do pieces for their lobbies. We do a lot of awards. We just finished the Governor's Award for the state of Vermont for the arts. We did the Highland Games Award. So we've worked with some large companies for architectural awards and a lot of different things like that. And we do a lot of commission work, one-of-a-kind pieces. So it's really challenging and it's very exciting at the same time.
Now, what is that other project that you're working on that I saw you on the Today Show?
Oh, we work with a company that takes ashes from either people or pets and put them in different objects for mementos. And they've become, they're a small but a significant part of our business. And so, yeah, it was really nice that they called up and said the Today Show wants to come and hang out at their shop. So, yeah, it was about a month ago they came up, and it was really nice. And we've had a tremendous response. That's one reason I'm late, is I was working on pieces. So anyway, that's it's been an exciting part of our business. So.
Yeah. Ian, are you selling internationally as well? Or?
Well, I've sent some stuff over the border, but it's not consistent. And oftentimes I find myself making things specifically for people. So I guess it's custom. And I think one of the things that I've been somewhat gratified by is that I've been doing this for 38 years, I guess, and it keeps finding me. People keep coming to the shop and they want stuff, or the phone rings, and
That's terrific. That's
It's
great.
pretty exciting. It's nice. It's nice to know that that happens, and there we are.
Do you find that, I mean, we talk about making things with your hands, and kids today don't get that option so much in school. I mean, I wanted to take woodworking, for example, when I was in school, and I walked into the class, and it was all men, all young boys.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, "Oh, you must be in the wrong class," so I disappeared quickly. But, do you think that that's a problem, that kids are not working with their hands anymore? I mean, how old were you when you started? Were you young, or you just, later on in life, you all of a sudden?
Well, 30 seems pretty young to me now.
Yeah.
But that's how old I was when I started. I guess I became interested, 28, 29. And I think, like Bob, I'm mostly self-taught. And you just keep working at it and trying a little tweak here and a little tweak there and see how, it works. But I think one of the essences of what we do is that, and I know I've said this before to people, but to me, there's a little bit of us in each thing we do. And that, to me, is what separates a lot of what we do from, what you go into the big box stores and get. And I think that in this day and age, that's also one of the positive aspects of this, is people make that connection. They can come and see the person who's actually making it, and in some cases watch it being made, and that's a really nice connection for people to have, especially in this day and age where so much is just off the shelf.
Exactly.
And you don't know where it came from.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the tour actually starts on Black Friday, which is notorious for the big box promotions.
Right.
And it's great to have the option of not doing that and finding something that's very special and one of a kind. And you were going to say something.
Along that line of what Ian said about you're taking a part of that person, and you also referred to people getting so caught up in technology and iPhones and things like that. And I think the farther people get away from the actual process of creating or being, the more that they want it, and the more that they come back to it. And I think it reflects our society that people, well, they're so supportive of the movement, and they love to kind of become, close to what you're doing. And I think that's a major part of it. It's that process is, I think it draws people because of that. So.
I am always amazed when I do go on the tour to see how amazed the people are when they watch you do what you do. Because it's almost like, where does your food come from? People don't realize that where these things can come from in terms of being handmade and made here in America and that sort of thing. But we should talk a little bit about the tour again. The dates are Friday and Saturday and Sunday, November 29, 30, and December 1, and it's from 10 to 5. And there will be an exhibit at the Gleanery so that folks can start there and pick up maps. People can also get more information at putneycrafts.com on the website. We will be showing some of the work as part of this show that we have brought today, that Bob and Ian and Carlene have brought today.
Lynn, are we going to talk about the other people on the tour?
And we should definitely talk about the other people on the tour.
26.
There are 26 people on the tour. And I don't know, and many of them, actually, I think 5 or 6 at least, are some of the founders that are on the tour.
Yeah.
Certainly Ken Pick, and we talked about Carol Kaiser,
David
Mischke, Liz Hawks, who has been on the tour and then came back on the tour, Noriko Isogi, who is a fine wood carver. We have John Ewald and Peggy O'Toole. He makes the most incredible tiles. Nancy Calico, who is a painter. Zach Weinberg, who does beautiful metalwork and wood and metalwork together. We also have cheesemakers. David
Great.
Major.
Good cheese.
Excellent cheese.
Very good.
And we have alpacas as well. Judy Hawkins is a beautiful painter. Carlene, who's here. Jean Bennett, jewelry maker. Let me see who else. We have Ruth Volk, who is another beautiful jewelry maker and probably the youngest on the tour, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Susan Wilson, who does beautiful sculptures. Dina Gartenstein Moses, who is beautiful hand-woven wearables. Green Mountain Spinnery. Edelburn, who does beautiful glass work, stained glass work. Debbie Lazar, who's a beautiful painter. Julia Brandis, who does also stained glass lamps in particular. Kathy McKenney, who's the alpaca person, who does beautiful, she makes hats and scarves and things like that.
A lot of beauty, I think.
Yeah?
I keep hearing the word beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely. They're all beautiful, right? Caitlin Birch. Now, Bob,
Hey,
you got to
what
talk
can you
about Caitlin. Come on.
Our second generation.
That's right.
Indeed.
Yeah, she's been on the tour for about 8 or 9 years, and she does jewelry. She blows glass at my shop, and then she has her own studio to do the jewelry in. So we work together on the jewelry sometimes, but for the most part, it's her doing the work at her shop. But,
And did you teach her? Were you?
I've taught her a little bit, but when she started blowing glass about 15 years ago, it was like she knew it inherently because she'd been around it so much.
Yeah.
And then she moved off into doing smaller pieces with jewelry, and that became a major part of her business. And she has a huge following, especially in New England, that follow her around to shows and buy her work. So
That's
I'm
great.
so proud. I mean, I can't imagine
Yeah.
anything better than having, well, she's got a new son.
She
so
does have a
maybe
new son,
I
so
might talk
this-
about another generation.
Generation.
But I'm so thrilled and so proud of her. So yeah, that's
That's great. And
exceptional.
she also does the ads for the Putney Craft Tour, which is
Right.
great. Everybody seems to volunteer and have
is-
different jobs.
There is another glassblower on the tour also, Josh Latour.
And Josh, yes, I haven't finished my list, but yes,
Oh,
Josh.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I think I missed somebody
Yeah,
over here.
the lower half. of
Maggie
your little-
Lake, I missed.
Oh, Maggie.
Yeah, and she
Beautiful
will be on the tour.
botanicals, yep.
Beautiful botanicals.
Levine.
John Levine, who does very interesting little chairs and little metal pieces. But it's for anybody coming, anybody around Thanksgiving weekend, it's absolutely an amazing event to come on the tour.
And we have people that come as far from, come up from New York City,
Right.
come from Boston, come a long way. They'll drive, several hundred miles and spend the weekend here. And, they love it. They enjoy
We
it
had
so
some
much.
people who came from Texas
Wow.
just for the tour.
Wow.
How cool was that?
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and as I understand it, there are over maybe 5,000 people that come in, and for that weekend on the
Easily,
tour,
yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's an amazing experience. You get to actually go on some of the back roads of Vermont, which is kind of fun, and it's a self-guided tour. You get to see all these wonderful artists and artisans where they do their work, and it's a great opportunity to buy very special items, either for yourself or for your family or for your best friend. There's more information at www.putneycrafts.com. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.